Hey guys, it's Angela again. I have had several questions about my medical stuff. People wanting me to go into a little more detail about the medical stuff that I've actually gone through. So that's what this video is going to be about, is more focused on all the medical stuff. So it's really kind of a dedication to those women out there that are really, really struggling with some of those fertility problems, like PCOS and endometriosis and others. Uh, I'm actually going to go a little more into detail into all the different types of medical things that I actually experienced, the research that I came across, the information I came across, and treatments that I used for myself. Again, I'm now pregnant. As of tomorrow, I'll be 25 weeks. I will do a quick belly shot here in a little while, probably at the end of this. So yeah, as of tomorrow, I'll be 25 weeks. It's a very, very active little boy, so we're getting pretty excited. I'm just gonna kind of go through the majority of my medical stuff. The first thing that pops into my mind is not really something that affected my fertility, although it did greatly affect my health. Just so people kind of understand, I had a heart condition known as supraventricular tachycardia, or SVT for short. It's actually an extremely common condition. From what I understand, like 1 out of every 5 people have it, but there's different forms of it. And when I say 1 out of every 5 people have it, that is the most mild form. It just doesn't affect people's lives. You might feel a little flutter in your heart every now and then for some unexpected reason. Don't freak out. Don't panic if you're told that that's what you have. More than likely, it's never, ever, ever, ever going to bother you. It's just that common. But what I had was a much, much more severe form of it. It actually ran in my family, and I didn't find that out until after I had my heart surgery. I had a heart surgery back in, I think it was 98. I had the surgery, or 99. I don't remember. No, it was 99, because July of 98, my heart actually stopped. I was clinically gone. It just kind of did its thing, and I remember it started reacting the way it always did in the past, but this particular time that day, it just got worse and worse and worse, and it didn't correct itself like it normally did. And I actually had to have a neighbor of mine take me into the hospital. And within 15 minutes after I got to the hospital, my heart stopped. So it's a good darn thing that I was there, because I wouldn't be here today. Um, yeah, and I remember the very, very last time I looked at the monitor, because as soon as they got me in the emergency room, they hooked me up to a little bit of everything. And I remember looking up at the monitor to see my heart rate, and I'll never forget the number, 256. 256 was what my heart rate was. So, if you can imagine. And then it just stopped. So, that was a big thing that affected my overall health. I had surgery for that, and for the most part, I really haven't had too many problems since then with the heart thing. But as far as the fertility stuff, the fertility health problems, some of the main things that I have talked about, I think I've mentioned a couple things in my previous videos, but I haven't gotten into too much detail. I did have endometriosis, very, very bad. I had that cauterized when I was 18 years old. Endometriosis can actually come back, though. And it did for me. After several years, it just kind of slowly came back, and I started noticing that my periods were coming more and more and more painful, just like they were before. And so basically that meant, for me anyway, that the endometriosis had been coming back. I also have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is, for whatever reason, you just get many, 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 many cysts on both sides. Well, one or both sides. For me, it was both sides. The first time I really even realized that I had anything like that going on was, again, when I was 18 years old. It was, they did a 2-in-1 surgery. They removed a very, very large cyst that I actually had on my right ovary. It was huge. It was absolutely huge. I think they said it was the size of a softball or something. It was huge. And they called it a complicated cyst, half tumor, half cyst. I don't know. I don't know the details on that. And they also cauterized the endometriosis at that same time. Um, so anyway, I had the PCOS. Over the years, I would go in to have different things checked out, and they would go, "Oh my goodness, look at that! You've got 5 cysts on this side and 7 cysts on this side." And being on birth control helped, but when you want to be able to have a baby, uh, you can't really be on birth control. So things got worse once I went off the birth control with the PCOS. I also had dysplasia, which I guess you could say is like a pre-cancer. I did have a portion of my cervix removed because of that. And when getting pregnant, that was a huge fear of mine because I knew that that could potentially affect my cervix and how competent my cervix was. And I knew that having to have a cerclage was a possibility because of that, because of the surgery. A cerclage, if anybody doesn't know, is more or less a stitch. They, in a sense, stitch your cervix closed so it can't dilate. It can't open up early. And for someone with an incompetent cervix, it can save your baby. It can absolutely save your baby. I was very lucky that in this pregnancy they didn't have to do a cerclage. I was shocked, and so were my doctors. They were shocked, but we kept an eye on things. I did the ultrasound on a couple different occasions, checking the length of the cervix and all that good stuff, and they said it looked great. So luckily that wasn't a problem. But I did have the dysplasia. I did have to have a portion of the cervix removed. But luckily that hasn't affected me to this point. And then of course, like I mentioned before, poor hormone levels, which was one of those things that for whatever reason my doctors just didn't, the several different doctors that I was going to, for whatever reason that it just didn't pop out to them. I was the one that had to bring it to their attention, and I explained that in my previous videos how all that worked. So I'm going to kind of go into a little bit more, pregnancy burps. I'm going to go into a little more in detail about each one of those things. Please keep in mind that when I talk about this stuff, I am by no means any kind of an expert. I'm not a doctor. Do not take what I say as gold, because this is simply my experience, the information that I've been able to obtain from my research and my experience,